Good morning. Welcome. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. I am filling in for Mr. Reed. I'm attorney Kyle Wyatt of Wyatt Law and Associates, Freedom Traffic Law, and also host of your Saturday mornings All Out Law. Got a jam-packed morning. We have 6:30, Senator Bill Eigel is going to call in and join us. 7 o'clock, we have Michael Hasties, who is running as a state representative here in Springfield. And then at our 8 o'clock hour, we will have Shane Schuler, who is running for Secretary of State here. A lot of big things coming up, but we need to get some news and weather. Be right back.
And your first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmitz, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today it's going to be sunny with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 59. On Friday, sunny with a high near 80. And on Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 82. Not too bad.
Nah, are we in Missouri?
I know.
July?
Yeah, in the middle of July, yeah.
It's almost like a Southern Cal kind of weather. Guys, phone lines are open if you always want to join us this morning. I missed having you guys. 447-5743. How many of you been paying attention to the Republican National Convention, the RNC? Last night was day 3 of the RNC convention. The speakers, I see, my opinion, they get a little bit better as the week progresses. Not to say that speakers on day 1 suck, but you're starting getting bigger names as you're getting closer to day 4. That's when they bring out the big guns. Last night we heard. Did you watch any of that last night? I know you guys.
With JD?
Yeah. Well, even before that,
I tuned in for quite a bit. I watched some of the Gold Star families speak. That was absolutely heartbreaking. Did you see that the college students that helped raise the flag while the protesters? Yeah, so they were on, I think it was like the very opening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'll find that audio and we can play it.
Those kids from North Carolina.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And then they had that GoFundMe page. Or, I don't know if they did. I think they may have done it, but they want to throw a party.
I think that they had set a date. I remember.
It was like $700,000 at one point.
Yeah, I remember they did set a date, and I'm pretty sure I sent that link to you because we had been talking about it.
John Rich said he'd come over and perform for free. Things seem to be moving in the right direction in this country. Even before the assassination attempt. There's a sense of degree of patriotism that's come out, and normally we see that upon an attack against us. After 9/11, patriotism was magnified. George W. Bush, the same guy that there was books written about how to assassinate George Bush, had over a 90% approval rating just 3 to 4 months after the attack on 9/11. Things like that generally brings the country together. What also kind of brings the country together is when things are crap, when things cost too much, when the price of gas is outrageous, interest rates. Could you imagine, you and Ryan, you're trying to buy your first house and getting the interest rates that are today? I am so thankful, beyond thankful, that we got locked in a few years ago at 3%. Boy, it's like a pipe dream now. And so when things are bad, it can bring people together. And Joe, he promised that, didn't he? In 2020, he's going to bring the country. Not the way he was imagining. I meant, not the way he thought it was going to. He was going to bring the country back together. Brought the country together because he sucks. The policies of the left, and it's not just look. I think after last month's debate, probably clear to everybody, Joe really doesn't make any of the decisions. There's somebody who does. For almost 4 years now, we'd hear Joe at the mic, and he'd trail off. Well, I'm getting in trouble if I say anymore. I asked the question before. Who in the world's threatening our president? Going to get in trouble. Somebody's making the decisions, not Joe, but it's the Democrat policies. They all agree with it. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, the squad, Crystal Quaid, all of them, they agree wholeheartedly. Anti-Jew, anti-Israel, wants to confuse little boys and girls about what gender they are. Time and time again, Democrats' policies, their beliefs, their creed. I mean, this is who they are. This is what makes them them. They rebuke you if you disagree with them. How many of you saw? I didn't watch it. I don't like war shows now are just bags of crap. And you remember some time ago, earlier this summer, Harrison Buckner, kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, had done a graduation commencement speech at a Catholic school, at a religious school, a place of faith, and talking to women, say, look, it's not bad. That is an important role, to be moms, to be wives. And he gets attacked. And then the SBs, they took every opportunity. Was it Serena Williams attacking him? It's just who the left is. But we got to take a break here. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. So last night, when I tuned in, they had Donald Trump's eldest granddaughter. She did a great job. And then Don Jr. Was up there. He's the rah rah guy. Has a little bit of his dad in him, a little bit. But then the prime time event for last night was J.D. Vance, James David Vance. He was born James Donald Bowman. Can you believe this guy? He is born August 2nd, 1984. 84. It's sickening. It's like, what have I done with my life? This kid is 39 years old, fixing to turn 40, and is already on the national scene, a heartbeat away of becoming president here in the next 5 months. And look, it obviously it's not over. But have you? I guess really we'll get back to JD real quick. But sidebar, have you seen the push that Joe Biden's been getting? They had a meeting, a Zoom meeting with Joe Biden. We got to find some clips of this at some point. They said it was worse than the debate. Joe was worse than the debate. Chuck Schumer is reported, now he is denying it, told Joe to, for the good of the country, step down, step aside, get out of the race. Publicly, though, he is denying those calls. Election denier Hakeem Jeffries also reports that he is going to be supporting Joe Biden to step down. It really is going to fall down to what, Nancy Pelosi, right? That's the queen of D.C. If you lose her support, well, man, what's Joe going to do? And so, all of a sudden, as opposed to being in front of the cameras and news press, Joe's got COVID. Yes. Make sure you keep the president in your hearts and prayers during this difficult time. At his age, God, it could take him out. It could take him out. I got a feeling this is a kind of a, well, let's say he has COVID. Let's keep him out of the spotlight for a little bit, and then announce that he's going to step down. He just came out, was it yesterday or the day before, indicating that that the other thing that would keep him from running, right, outside of the word of God, right, if God comes down and tells me, now he's saying if doctors tell him that if his health is such that he would have to bail out. He said it on Tuesday. Well, today's Wednesday. Thursday. Shut up, don't listen to me. Do not call on me to give you the news. I don't even know what day it is. I'm supposed to be on vacation, so that's why every day is a little bit different for me. But yeah, that is what they're calling for Joe to step down. The press had begun that. They, like sharks, smelt blood in the water, and has been circling him for some time. When the allies of the left are against you, it seems like your time is up. I guess the big question is going to be, the Democrat National Convention is August 15th. That's the short time away, less than a month. So what will they do? Who will they call on? Will it be Kamala? Will they just say, look, next man up? She is the sitting vice president. It only makes sense to have her. It would be a very Democrat thing to do, to put another white guy up front and make the color lady sit in the back. That wouldn't be very Democratish. I have a feeling that's where it's going to be. We'll got to take a quick break here, but Kamala had come out recently wanting to challenge our new vice president nominee. With that, we'll be back. Listener text in, shocked that Biden has contracted COVID after all the boosters he has received. Kind of wonder about the efficacy of these. I'm starting to wonder about those. Maybe these COVID shots aren't working. I'm a little concerned. I've been told that they are safe and effective. So this just doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris has jumped out ahead and is trying to challenge newly appointed vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance of Ohio to a debate. And CBS has indicated that they would take it and scheduled a date for August 13th. Now, the Democratic National Convention starts August 19th, so that'd be basically a week before. So Kamala, who is known for her oratory skills, she's a very talented woman in saying a lot of words, not saying a lot of things, just saying a lot of words. Yeah, a little head scratcher. Why would she want to do that? Why would you want to show how crappy you are at what you think you can do? But don't worry. The Trump campaign, J.D. Vance, replied back that thanks but no thanks. Quote, we don't know who the Democratic nominee for vice president is going to be, so we can't lock in a debate before their convention. Who's going to be the vice president? To do so would be unfair to Gavin Newsom, J.B. Freiker, Gretchen Whitmer, or whoever Kamala Harris picks as her running bait, he said, rejecting the offer of Harris to debate Vance. Biden-Harris 2024 communication director for Vice President Harris, Brian Fallon, said Trump is the one whose campaign said he would debate anytime, any place, and who picked Vance specifically for his debating skills. Now, suddenly, right after a damning new leak showing his support for a nationwide abortion ban, Vance is backing off a debate against Vice President Harris, who spent the last 2 years prosecuting the case on behalf of reproductive freedom. Why did they call it reproductive freedom? Why did you just call it what it is, killing babies? We want the right to kill babies. You're not reproducing anything. You're trying to kill them. Obviously, that's nowhere close to being accurate or right or correct or any of that stuff. Look, we had questioned the wisdom of Biden wanting to challenge Trump in the first place. And it had to be someone telling Joe, look, I think you should do this. This would be a great idea. Meanwhile, they were planning they knew he sucked. They knew that at some point he was going to have to talk in front of people. And at that point, the rest of the world would see what we have been seeing and knowing for the last 4 years, that Joe just doesn't have it. That there's something mentally wrong with him, whether dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever. He's not playing with all his marbles. And so they go, all right, let's just go ahead and get him out in front and do a debate before the convention, which doesn't happen. You know how it works every 4 years. In the summertime, you have your two party conventions. And then after that, once the presidential nominee has been confirmed, and this is what we're going to have, then that's when the debates begin. You get 3 of them. 3 for the president, 1 for the vice president. And the forums are always the same, right? You have one like this, like a town hall type of deal. You have one that's more the stand there and field questions from the moderator. And then you have one that's going to be like kind of a sit down, just more casual. Let's just talk about some of these issues here. But they decided to, no, let's put Joe up front. Now, if you were sincere in wanting your guy, Joe, to become president again, you wouldn't have made that choice. You wouldn't say, no, the last thing you want to do, look what the playbook was in 2020. Hide him in his basement. Do not let him talk. Because what he does is, wow, this guy a little off. Now the media provided cover for Joe, said he has a stuttering problem. Stop making fun of him. He has a stuttering problem. No, he does not have a stuttering problem. He has a mental problem. A cognitive problem. So it was designed, I think, to push him out. There's no other reason why. He wasn't going to win a debate. He wasn't. And then they kicked around the idea, well, maybe we just take out Trump. Maybe that'll help us. Then that failed. So now they got to go back to plan A, and it's like, all right, we got to get rid of Joe Biden. And so they're going to put Kamala Harris after they pay Joe whatever amount Jill wants, right? They're not going to walk away with nothing. That would be stupid. But we're at the bottom of the hour. We need to take our next break. We are going to be joined by phone with Senator Bill Eigel. You got any questions, feel free to call or text our text line at 417-447-5743.
Fields Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today it's going to be sunny with a high near 82. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 59. On Friday, sunny with a high near 80. And on Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 82.
Thank you, Sarah. I am Kyle Wyatt, filling in for Mr. Nick Reed. And we have with us on the line right now, Senator Bill Eigel of Missouri's 23rd Senatorial District. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Kyle. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Absolutely. Bill, we've had you on the show a couple times on our Saturday mornings. It's good to talk to you again. I'm a little worried, Senator, a little worried. I saw a poll yesterday. I don't know if you caught that. And national polling firm ARW Strategies says that Mike Keyhole, this rhino in Jefferson City that we have, is up front at 24%. Did you catch that poll?
Yeah, that same poll has got me within the margin of error behind Mike Kehoe, and that's why all the attack ads have started against me from Kehoe's team, because they know that they've spent $7 million on TV and have barely moved the needle. But we are absolutely surging, and they're desperate. They know that their message is not resonating with the people of this state, because Mike Kehoe, not only is he not a fighter, he's a Democrat. If you look at his record of what he's done while he's been in office, this is the guy that supported the biggest tax increase in the history of the state. This is the guy that voted as a state senator to sell our land to foreign countries, China in particular. Folks are not buying what he's selling. As we surge in the polls, those folks down in Jefferson City, including Mike Kehoe, are just getting more and more scared. I feel very good as we head towards August 6th.
Yeah, it is. It's just a head scratcher, Senator. Republicans, especially here in the state of Missouri, tend to be pretty conservative. I know you have different types of Republicans, maybe in Kansas City and St. Louis, but for the rest of the state, pretty conservative values, low taxes, small government, the type of things that you're pushing for. Meanwhile, we know what Mike Keyhole does. We have seen his votes. I mean, this is not like somebody who was, let's say, I'm a businessman, right? And this is what I've always done, and you don't really know, I'm saying all the right things. He's saying the right things, but he's done all the wrong things. How is he getting away with it? I mean, the August 6th isn't here yet. He hasn't got away with anything yet, but boy, the polls are scary.
Well, I tell you what, I think in many cases he's not even saying the right things. In fact, just this weekend, I've been talking about this illegal immigration problem we have in Missouri, and I've been the one making the commitment that on my first day in office, I'm going to declare an invasion of the state under Article 4 of the Constitution. We will detain and deport every single illegal immigrant that's in the state of Missouri right now. Mike Kehoe came out over the weekend and actually said that he disagreed with that policy. He called my plan to detain and deport the illegals foolish and impractical. So I guess that means he's for amnesty. So I never thought that I would see the day that a major candidate for office in the state of Missouri was unwilling to go after and deal with the illegal immigration problem. But that's exactly where Mike Kehoe is at. And as a result of those comments, he got an endorsement from the Kansas City Star, one of the most liberal newspapers in the state. And I think, you know what? Here's what it comes down to. I think Mike Kehoe enjoys the praise that he gets from the liberal media by being the moderate candidate in this race. It's intoxicating for politicians like him. That's why he's actually said in that same interview, if you want a flamethrower, I'm not your guy. Those are his words. Yeah. And what he doesn't realize is I think the people are looking for a flamethrower who's going to go down to Jefferson City and actually confront the swamp. I don't really care about getting praise from the liberals who hate us. That's why when politicians like Kehoe or Joe Biden or anyone says it's foolish to deport illegal immigrants, I'm going to call them out.
I promise you this, Senator, that the Kansas City Star might be endorsing him today, but when it comes November and the choice between him and Crystal Quaid or whoever else the Democrats dig up to run for office, that endorsement will quietly fade away. It'll be the Democrats who they think is going to be the best vision for the state of Missouri. I believe that the choice is pretty distinct between Keyhole and you. It's not even close. I don't even know why. I see a lot of these signs out there. These Republicans who are, supporting Keyhole. I guess it was the horse and the cowboy hat on. Maybe that's what sold them. But his policies, and you have stated, he voted to sell land to China, and it wasn't just once. He did it 4 times. This guy doesn't stop. And the tax hike, Mike. He's with Governor Parsons. I had heard from Senator Mike Moon saying how many senators were being threatened if you don't vote or if you don't at least stop this from happening, then we're gonna attack you. And we're not gonna let you get any bills across the finish line. These guys wanted to raise taxes. They wanted to raise them bad.
Yeah. Well, and that's why what you just described was going on. That's why Mike Kehoe is now too afraid to show up to the debates that are scheduled for the gubernatorial candidates. We had a forum last week. Mike Kehoe refused to show up. We've got a primetime debate, the last debate in the primary cycle scheduled for next week. He's indicating he's not going to show up. I call him no-show Kehoe, but I tell you what, I've made this offer to him. That if he decides to show up and answer a few questions from the very voters that he's asking for support, I've committed that I will stop calling him Kung Pao Kehoe and just go back to calling him Tax Hike Mike. So I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to give a little bit. I'm willing to compromise. But this is amazing that he knows how bad his record is. That's why he won't show up to these debates and answer a few questions. And if he can't stand in front of the people of this state, and stand in front of the Missouri Republican electorate and explain why he's saying all the right things in his commercials, but he acts like a Democrat for as long as he's been in office, then he doesn't deserve a single vote from a single Republican in a single county in this state on August 6th. I know he's getting a ton of money from the special interest, millions of dollars, but Missouri Republicans are looking for a leader who's going to confront the swamp, not move us closer into assimilating with it. So I feel good about our message. Mike Kehoe continues not to show up. He's a Democrat. Nobody's buying what he's selling.
Well, you kind of can tell by the people that he runs around with. Sarah had stated that she's been noticing a lot of keyhole signs, and they always seem to be next to a Lincoln Huff. What do those two guys have in common, Senator? You work with both folks.
Well, they're both Democrats. That's what they have in common. In fact, I keep saying this, but don't take my word for it. The American Conservative Union, those are our friends up at CPAC, have graded the voting records of every state senator to come through the chamber, the Missouri Senate chamber, for the past almost 15 years now. Lincoln Huff is graded as the most liberal Republican to serve in the Missouri Senate in modern history.
Wow.
Mike Kehoe is also down near the bottom because these guys don't believe in Republican values, and they are desperate to spend their money just putting a bunch of fancy commercials on or doing attack ads against real conservatives like me that are trying to convince folks of something other than the truth. I have seen these guys in action. I have seen them down in the swamp. I've served with both of them. These guys represent the epitome of Republicans that are saying anything they can in campaign season, but have no intention whatsoever to actually implement these kind of policies, these conservative big red policies, once they're elected into office.
Senator, we got to take a quick break here. If you hold on with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to the Nick Reed Show. I'm attorney Kyle Wyatt filling in, and we got Senator Bill Eigel. He is a candidate as a Republican for the gubernatorial position here in the great state. We were just talking, Senator. Sarah is hard pressed. She didn't think Keyhole is advertising here on the station. You and Jay Ashcroft do. I'd wonder why a conservative's not, or if you act like you're a conservative, but you're really a liberal, why you wouldn't vote? You're advertised here on a conservative radio station. But I imagine he's probably doing a lot on pop stations or NPR. Does he? I don't know. It's just frustrating when you know the guy's record. And you have people who and I really do believe, you've gone out across the whole state, and you've met a lot of people from all walks of life. Do most voters, do they have just sincere concern for the direction the state is going?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, when we talk about my plank of ideas, folks are excited about the things that I'm talking about. In fact, I'm the only guy in this race talking about getting rid of personal property tax. I'm the only guy talking about how we ought to be able to own our vehicles like the folks in 29 other states have, instead of getting charged rent for them every December 1st. I'm the only guy talking about getting rid of deporting the illegals in this state versus a guy like Mike Kehoe, who is not going to do anything, and he opposes getting rid of personal property tax. I'm the only guy in this state that's talking about not only stopping the further sale of our land to foreign countries, but I've been pushing forward in a constitutional amendment that will actually require the land that's already owned by foreign entities to give them back and sell or transfer to American hands. So folks are excited about the ideas, but that poll that you referenced earlier, it's one of the first polls as we're surging. It's one of the first polls to show me ahead of my other opponent, Jay Ashcroft. And I think that it's indicative, and we've seen other polls say the same thing, that this is really becoming a two-person race now. It's either me or Kehoe. So if you're looking for that proven conservative that's been voting exactly the way I've been promising I would act in campaign season, I think I offer a good alternative to Mike Kehoe if we see Jay Ashcroft continue to fade into last place. So we have put together a campaign that nobody in Jefferson City expects. Everybody down in Jefferson City is completely occupied with Mike Kehoe because they can't imagine the Missouri that I'm talking about, that Missouri where we don't have personal property tax, or that Missouri that we're leading these United States. And this message of such a strong Missouri that's a leader in these United States is really appealing to a lot of folks. That's why I suspect I'm optimistic we're going to continue to surge in the polls.
Yeah, the article we referenced have both you and Ashcroft at 19%, but the good news is 38% of voters are still undecided. So that means it's still really anybody's game. We just got to make sure this Keyhole does not get it. We can't take any more of these. We've had Mike Parsons now, and we've gone through this for 6 years. I think enough is enough. This is it's crazy because we see in other states who are doing Republican things. I had told you before. I'll tell you again. I heard one of your speeches a couple years ago. You came down to the City Republic to help support Eric Burleson, a good friend of yours. And you were saying Republicans need to do Republican things. We look at other states like Tennessee, Florida, Texas doing things. We got Arkansas in the game, Indiana, Iowa, Oklahoma. We got these other states who are doing very conservative things. We had far less conservative leads, like majorities. We have these super majorities in both the House and Senate, and there's no leadership. It's just you're herding cats. You guys couldn't get IP reform done this year. You say that everybody said we're going to get IP reform done. That's all I heard about leading into January. IP reform, and then no IP reform. There's no leadership, zero. And Keyhole is not going to be that voice calling out in the wilderness to lead the great conservative movement.
No, absolutely. When IP reform was dying out on the floor of the Senate, where was Mike Kehoe? Where was Mike Parsons? These guys said nothing. They did nothing. They will continue to do nothing. They were busy growing government and expanding the state budget into all their new government programs. They've expanded the size and scope of government more in their 6 years, Kehoe and Parson have, in their 6 years of being in that administration, than all the Democratic governors combined going back to the founding of the state. So it is, if you really look at where the Republican electorate is, and I have what I describe as a love-hate relationship with polling, right? Because it's easy to read too much into the numbers, but several polls have come out now just in the past week. They've all shown the same thing. And if you look at the big trends in all of the polling that's come out, the big trend is one, Jay Ashcroft is continuing to fade. I remember when we saw the first poll that was taken 2 years ago, Secretary Ashcroft was at 54%. Now he's down in the mid-teens. So his campaign is going the wrong direction, and that's been on that trend for more than a year and a half. Mike Kehoe has been stuck really in the mid-20s in spite of spending millions and millions of dollars on TV, because there's a relatively small portion of the electorate that is attracted to his kind of establishment, traditional, everyday, go along, get along message. And then finally, all the polls have showed the same thing about my numbers. My numbers, which started at 1% 2 years ago, are now climbed into the high teens, low 20s, challenging for the lead as we continue to surge. So even though it's tempting to overread into the specific numbers, all the trends are the same. They're all good for us. They're all bad for Mike Kehoe. And I just don't think that his message, when he's out there saying it's foolish to deport the illegal immigrants. Those were his words. That was his words, that it was foolish to deport the illegals in our state. I just don't think that's going to resonate with a Republican electorate that is very concerned about the invasion that Joe Biden has opened up on our southern border. That's why I keep saying, let's go Missouri.
All right, we got to take a break here. One more, Senator, if we can hold on, and we'll get right back. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. Welcome back. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. I'm Attorney Kyle Wyatt filling in. We have Senator Bill Eigel running for Missouri governor on the Republican ticket. I think at the end of the day, we were just talking during the break, Sarah and I, when you have these type of primaries, and there's a liberal who's running, and that's Mike Heel. I mean, there's no questions about it, right? There's zero questions about it. I kind of remember back to the 2022 Republican primary here for the 7th congressional district. Eric Burlison was going against Jay Wasson. You recall that? And we had another conservative, Mike Moon, on the ticket and stuff, and the concerns were will the two conservatives kind of fight each other out, and then you get this liberal in. But at the end of the day, those in the 7th congressional district did the right thing. I mean, Eric Burlison wiped the floor with Jay Wasson. I mean, it wasn't even close. And Jay had a lot of money too. So that's why it seems like this kind of statewide campaign is a lot like that. I mean, it would be a very bad move for the state. It would take us backwards, not forward, if Keyhole gets this nod on August 6th. Real quick, we're just was 5 days away. What was your thoughts on the assassination attempt on President Trump? Where were you at?
I think, but. Well, so I was out on the campaign trail. We were driving from Kirksville to Mexico, Kirksville, Missouri to Mexico, Missouri, not the Mexico.
Yeah.
And we were. I think I reacted to it like we see a lot of folks around the country reacted to it with shock. That was my initial reaction was just shock that this could happen. And then very quickly that turned when I saw the replays, the videos of the event, the president standing up, shaking his fist in defiance of the swamp, of the shooter. I really felt pride that we weren't going to take this and that we were going to continue to stand strong, and we were going to continue to confront the swamp, even though they were precipitating this direct attack on the president. So it was a horrific event, and even though the president was only hurt, had minor injuries, someone did lose their life in that shooting, and several folks were injured. So it remains an American tragedy. And that just tells you, we're not doing a good enough job protecting each other. We're not doing a good job protecting our communities right now and taking care of one another. That's why I've been talking a lot about our need to protect Missouri, protect each other. We held a couple days later, we held a prayer rally here in St. Charles City, where I'm from, and it was a great event. Almost 200 people showed up to the event. In fact, the building we were in, the fire marshal showed up and had to tell us to stop letting people in because we were violating the fire code. But folks want to come together, and I think that President Trump's message of unity is a good one. The unity is going to be driven by the ideas that bring us together as Republicans in the first place. So these ideas that I have, it's not, people don't wake up necessarily in the morning voting for the name Bill Eigel. I believe they're supporting the ideas that I'm talking about: getting rid of personal property tax, deporting the illegals, protecting our farmland, protecting the children in our schools from this pornographic material. All of these things, the ideas is what's attracting us to our campaign, or was attracting the voters to our campaign, and I think are what ultimately going to help us and be very, very strong for us on August 6th. But if folks are interested in those ideas, they're coming to the realization that these ideas don't really mean anything to a guy like Mike Kehoe, who's just been working to kind of move the status quo along, make the status quo bigger, and they're looking for that fighter, that disruptor, just like Donald Trump is the disruptor of the swamp in Washington, D.C. They're looking for that fighter who's going to confront the swamp down in Jefferson City and really push Missouri to be a leader in these United States.
Well, that is awesome, Senator. We appreciate your time. The best of luck. August 6th will be here before you know it, so we hope you have safe travels in your campaign.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a great morning. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely, guys. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Nick Reed Show. Good morning. It is July 18th, 2024. I'm attorney Kyle Wyatt of Wyatt Law and Associates, filling in for Nick Reed this morning. We got up ahead here Michael Hasty, who is running for the 135th district here in Springfield. We're going to have our conversation with him. Before that, we're going to go ahead and get some news and weather.
The first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Today we've got sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 59. On Friday we've got sunny skies once again with a high near 80. And on Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 82.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
All right, we got Michael Hasty. He is, you may have seen him humping around town. He's in the running for the position of the 135th. He is a Republican candidate, so August 6th means very little to him. So he'd probably appreciate your vote. Just nice, always nice to see people voting for you. But he has no opponents this year. He has one opponent in November, which is the incumbent Democrat, Betsy Fogel. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
So the 135th, you've been door knocking around your district. Where, if I am listening to the show, and I'm not, certain where, what district am I in? What streets and area is 135th?
There's a little gerrymandering with it, but the basic outline of the district is north of Sunshine, east of National. We go just a little bit north of 44 and just a little bit east of 65. Okay. There's a little jet that comes in around MSU and to the west of National there, but it's a small little piece.
Yeah, I see that. You, what in the world possessed you to try to run for office?
It's a great question. We met a long time ago when I was running for city council, and a lot of people know me from that. I got active in the city council race kind of during COVID, wanting to step up and do more. And my family, that's my motivator for everything that I do is my family. And after I was unsuccessful in 2021 for the city council race, I decided, I can still do something. I don't have to be an elected official. So I've stayed active. I've got active in the last few school board races. And I decided, I wasn't liking the direction that the country's going, or the state of Missouri's going, or what's coming down from Jeff City impacting us in Springfield. And had a few people tell me, hey, you could be good, candidate, and possibly, if you win, you could do great things. And I was like, if I could help my family and other families like my own, I was like, let's do this.
Yeah, and you held true to your word when and it was it was the first time you ran for office, wasn't it, for the city council position?
Yes, sir. That's my first dipping my toe into politics. Period.
You started what was called the Queen City Watchdog, basically to try to hold politicians, city leaders, county leaders, school board leaders to what they promise, what the law is, what the charters are. And being that voice, doing really the job of what the press is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and we're for that, but we're also to kind of keep people informed because, as we all are aware that are actually active in the municipal and political world, is nobody turns out in April for school board races. Yeah. Nobody turns out for the city council races, and that's kind of disheartening because at the local level, that's what impacts you the most. Federal is very important. The president, D.C. stuff's very important. Obviously, state level is, but the most direct impact on your life was municipal, and that's kind of why I was like, this is going to have the most impact on my family. This is where I need to be the most active.
What is your suggestion? We're going to have Shane Schuler come on next hour. He's running for Secretary of State. What outside of our Saturday morning show, All at Law, the last 3 years we have been pounding the drum on school board races. I mean, we would dedicate the entire month of March to school board candidates who are running, for people to get to know the candidates, to make an informed decision, and like you indicated, it's the turnout. A city that has over 100 churches, right?
Yeah.
Over 100 congregations out there, who have strong Christian moral values, right? And would be absolutely just opposed to boys showering with girls in the locker room. Stay home. They don't care. I'm sure that the school board members that they're out there, they would never do stuff like that. And here we go. We get Sharita Tate. We get a whole host of liberals in our school board, who are supported by the Democrat Party. You remember that was leaked out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
That the Democrats are actively with this. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan deal. How do we fix it? We can't motivate the congregation and other conservatives to get out the vote. What would be the solution?
I've heard other state reps and people talking about moving the election to, I believe it was in August before, during primary time for municipal. And trying to put it in November would be just, overcrowding the ballot, but you would get a larger turnout, which would be nice, because I'm just flabbergasted by all the door knocking I've done and every interaction I've had. And then election day, seeing people post on social media or having interactions if I'm out, at a polling station, people are like, oh, I didn't know there was an election day. Someone told me. That's why I'm here. I was like, I guess the signs get lost in the everyday movement of traffic and just blend into the background. But the amount of people that are unaware, even after everything, it's right. Astonishing to me.
Well, we got to take a break here. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. Welcome back. You're listening to The Nick Reed Show. I'm attorney Kyle Wyatt filling in, and we have with us Michael Hasty, who's running as the Republican candidate for the 135th. You are former military, Mike. I have to tell
Yes,
you
sir.
what you already know, but those who don't know, talk about your years of service and what you did, your MOS, all the good stuff.
I am a U.S. Army veteran. I did almost 4 years in the Army. I was part of the surge in Baghdad in 2007, so I'm a combat veteran. And I was what's called battlefield reconnaissance. And anybody that knows the military, it was a 19 Delta was the MOS designation. And what I did was in a traditional setting, as you know, you go out and you kind of scout out and you look and you observe. It's a lot of what we did in Iraq. I patrolled the streets, tried not to get blown up, and captured people and took the bad guys off the streets.
Not the not a desk job.
Oh no, sir. No, I was outside. In the military we call outside the wire. So I was outside the fob. I was out in the operating era, and with the locals and everything.
How did you survive? I mean, afterwards, so many of our friends, didn't fare so well. They come back home and they have a lot of issues. That's a hell of a testament.
I have a lot of friends that didn't make it when we got home. And for me, like I said yesterday on the Elijah Har show, I was lost. I was kind of not having a purpose, a soldier without a mission, if you will. And my family, anybody that knows me knows that my family is why I do everything that I do. And my family recentered me. That was my purpose. Becoming a dad, one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me in life. And that's kind of what pulled me out of the cloud, if you will. The wandering and the lostness was having a purpose by being a father again.
Yeah. It had to have shocked you some this past Saturday, seeing a 20-some-odd-year-old kid take a shot at the president, hit the president, kill another individual, a father, a firefighter,
Yep.
protecting his family, critically wounding 2 or 3 others. Where were you at when you heard the news?
I believe I was at work, and my wife called me and said they took a shot at President Trump. I said, what? And for me, up until this last week, I always thought 9/11 was going to be the craziest or wildest thing that ever happened in my life, because I was born in '86, so about 5 years after the Reagan assassination attempt. So I never thought in my lifetime I'd see something that wild.
Right.
And to me, it's a failure on so many levels that was even allowed to happen. But what's more important to dive into is what led that kid to taking that shot. And that's the hateful, divisive rhetoric that's been coming from the far left for far too long, making Donald Trump everything short of Adolf Hitler. And you see that with a lot of other races too, and a lot of political environment around the country. These people, if they disagree with you, they make you the second coming of the devil, and eventually that's going to lead to these situations.
It's one thing to disagree.
Absolutely.
I 100% am opposed to Mike Kehoe, who's running for governor. Not because I think he's a bad guy. I don't know him. He might be a really great guy. But I know the things that he has voted for that are contrary to what I believe conservative values are. I believe in less government. He votes for more government. I vote for less taxation. He voted for more taxation. And just down the list. But I wouldn't go and say that he is the devil. What do the Democrats say about Trump? That he is a threat to democracy. That we need to take him out. Joe Biden, a day before the assassination attempt, said we need to put a bullseye on Donald Trump. Now, were they talking about a literal bullseye? Probably not, because I don't think Joe knows what he's talking about half the time. But it's that type of rhetoric. It's no different than Chuck Schumer on the steps of the Supreme Court telling Kavanaugh that we're coming for you, that it's going to be a hurricane coming down your backside. And then what? Somebody tries to take a lick at Brett Kavanaugh. to go to his house and tie him up, tie his family up, and kill him. I mean, these Democrats, you know. I I made a post yesterday that in a stunning turn of events, Democrats are now in favor of the use of AR-15s. Because it's just you know, you wonder who the real assassins are, the real terrorists, and it's these Democrats that all they know is hate, because they don't have anything that they can actually say, here's my record, here's how I've actually voted to improve your life, your children's lives. Betsy Fogel, I don't know, I think it would be hard pressed to say what things has she voted for that has improved the lives of those in 135th.
Everybody that I've ever talked to uses the phrase, she's a nice person, but nice doesn't, pay the bills. Nice doesn't get things done.
Well, let's come back. We're going to talk about what separates the two of you right after the break. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. So we got Michael Hasty here. He is running for the 135th, and that'll be in November election. But if you haven't been in politics a great deal, it's about getting your name out there. It's about people starting to be familiar with hearing Michael Hasty, and the work you've done on the Queen City Watchdog has really moved that dial along. You've always been, since I've known you, and I met you 3 years ago, is that you're very community minded. You had orchestrated or organized a town hall that had Sheriff Arnott came to talk. And then we had Angela Romine. She was a city council person at the time.
Yep.
You had a whole host of people from different areas to talk about real problems that were affecting Springfield. We got a homelessness problem. Family and I just came back from Southern Cal from vacation a few weeks ago. And my little 8-year-old daughter, I keep hearing her, she was counting as we're walking to Disney. And what are you counting, baby? And she's counting how many homeless people she's seeing. Laying underneath, laying underneath park benches, laying on a sidewalk, they just lay there, they didn't really cause any problem. They weren't begging for money. I mean, they weren't very aggressive at all. But it's just a problem that homeless people flock to liberal areas because they're waiting for the handout. In California and some cities, they even give living wages to those who are homeless. You know, something, yeah, and more than a lot of people who are actually working can get, and so it's a huge problem. And you have been that voice to try to, let's find solutions. Let's not demonize each other, but let's find real solutions to these problems. What do you see is the big problems that are affecting your district right now?
Well, we see the homelessness over there. And while we're just a piece of Springfield, Springfield's issues are the 135th. And a lot of people at the door is what I'm hearing. The top two concerns of voters in the 135th is the economy, as we've all felt the pinch.
Right.
Going to the grocery store trying to get food for the family for the week. And then surprisingly is the border situation. And at first, that was one of those things I'm like, why are people in southern Missouri over here in this little piece of Springfield concerned about that? But fentanyl comes across the border. We have a homeless problem, a drug problem. Now, they're not tied together. I'm going to be clear about that. But there are, people on the streets that are there because of their addiction, and people dying, our family members, our friends. And that's something that can be handled up at the state level to offset what's not being done at the federal level coming across our border. We can support our first responders, our police officers, and taking care of that. There was a shooting. It was not in the district, but it's in the city outside of Party City I believe, last week. 2 illegal immigrants in a shootout outside of a store here in Springfield. And that's a store I go to multiple times a year. I got 4 kids, so we're always going for a birthday party.
Right.
And that's just kind of crazy. Something like that hit home. I'm like, that I go there. I was there last month for my son's birthday party getting party supplies. So something that's happening so many thousands of miles away is actually seeping over into our little piece of Missouri here.
Well, if city leaders and local leaders don't get their act together, I mean, crime is going up.
Absolutely.
That's been something that you've been tracking. And we have the Democrats who are for the defund the police. They look for raising money for social services, thinking that, well, if there's a domestic problem, we don't need an officer there. We need a social worker to come by and remedy it. And they just keep coming up with these ideas. And Betsy Fogel is a Democrat. She votes with the Democrat Party there in Jefferson City. How do you expect 135th to get any kind of solutions done if you're being anchored into losing strategies, losing ideas, losing values? I mean, the Democrats do not provide anything that they're all about DEI, right? And we got to see Saturday how well DEI works. I mean, you have Melissa McCarthy there protecting the president of the United States. Couldn't holster her gun. And up to his nipples is supposed to be a bodyguard, right? You had these people who and we had we're gonna have John Ashcroft on the show Saturday, Attorney General John Ashcroft on, and he calls DEI didn't earn it. And you got these people with it, but that's a Democrat policy. I mean, they're about that. We got to take a break here. We're coming at the bottom of the hour. I get fired up on these type of things because we got to have solutions, and I'm so tired of these little ideas and staying that the Democrats give, and they have nothing for solutions. And I think the 135th deserves solutions to their problems. So, guys, we'll be right back after this message.
Springfield's Talk 1041, Sarah Myers here. If you have been in the market to purchase a legacy firearms that can be used as family heirlooms or antique firearms, but you're not exactly sure where to go, I want to recommend Quick Draw Gun in Monette. If you haven't been down there, the shop is pretty easy to find. It's just a straight shot down 60, about an hour or so away from Springfield. It's a great little gun shop, locally owned. Brad and his team, they do a phenomenal job down there, and of course they offer quite a few things, not only hundreds of accessories to choose from, tons of firearms, names that you won't see anywhere else in Southwest Missouri, but they also offer minor gunsmithing services and custom Cerakoting and laser engraving services as well. If you are out there and you are looking to buy one of those legacy firearms, or maybe you have a larger collection that you are looking to sell, go ahead and give Brad and his team a call today. You can find all of that contact information for Quick Draw Gun in Monette under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com. The first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Today it's going to be sunny with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 59. On Friday sunny with a high near 80. And on Saturday mostly sunny with a high near 82.
You know, it's something we have, it appears, that doesn't appear, it really is. There's a breakdown in public decency, right? And Springfield is not immune from it. It happens all over. Just this past month, many of you have caught the San Francisco Pride Parade, which featured nude adults walking around in front of children, in a fetish zone where men urinated on each other in a kiddie pool and performed other sex acts. And law enforcement did zero to enforce decency laws. Hell, even the FBI and the ATF were there to join the festivities in the parade. You know, Joe Biden sending out our best out there. And the Democrats, like Betsy Fogel, who will crawl over each other to show who's the most gay pride person, right? Who's the most DEI? Who's the most woke, right? And so nothing is out of bounds. Here in Springfield, we had a Pride Fest, and they had drag shows. Men dress up as women. Okay, all right. Not my cup of tea.
Mine neither.
But you do you. But they don't just do that, do they?
No.
They didn't just do that here, did they?
It's a little bit more than that, and that's one of the things that we did share on, the Queen City Watchdog last year. And then there was another group locally, some guys that live streamed the whole thing to kind of see what goes on. And like you said, not your cup of tea. I'm come very traditional family, you know, mom, dad. My wife is the mother of all my children, which was a shock to some lady at the door. It just kind of blew me when she found out my wife was the mother of all 4 of my kids. So we're very traditional, and I'm not here to judge anybody. That's, your life choices are between you and God, not me. But when you put it in front of children, like you said, that's kind of where I draw the line. That's where it's unacceptable. When we have in our town square drag performances in front of children where children, minors under the age of, I would say some of them were under the age of 12, tipping drag dancers, that's a problem. That's unacceptable. That's not, to me, that's not accepting or inclusive. That's borderlining grooming.
Well, and Democrats just this is what they are. This is what they do. This is their values. They want to destroy God, any vestige of God, any discussion of Jesus. God, don't say his name.
Oh yeah.
But naked guys urinating on each other. It's just this is they have been degraded for so long that this is our chance to come out from the shadows, right? Come out of the closet and show the world that we matter. And all. It's insane. Corporations again crawl over themselves to try to show who's the most woke, right? Bud Light, that worked out well for them, and it's just one thing after another. And I wonder about the 135th, thinking that let's put Betsy Fogel back in. She's a Democrat. Those are all the Democrats' values. Gone are the Judeo-Christian values. That is persona non grata in a Democrat Party. They may go to church. Joe Biden, he's a good Catholic, right?
So he says, yes.
Yeah, but absolutely for all types of abortion. Betsy Fogel also pro-abortion, right? Very few restrictions, if any, on abortions. Go around and ask her. At what point can the government step in and say no, you can't get it? Right? That's a conversation between the woman and her doctor, right? That's a very personal decision. The government shouldn't get involved, right?
That's what they
Well,
tell
should the
you.
government get involved in if you put a pillow over your child's face? Does the government care about that? What you know? And so it's just these radical, and that's what the Democrats become a radical party. Used to, we could have dialogue. You know, there was you're a little young to remember, but back in the 80s, Ronald Reagan was my president, and the Speaker of the House back then was Tip O'Neill. And they would regularly get together once a week and just discuss and come to conversations. And Reagan never had to change his values. He had to compromise his values. What he did is try to find where's the commonality that we can get to.
Where's that middle ground?
And reach there. Because Reagan always said, I'd rather have 80% of what I want as opposed to 0. Because it would take these hard lines. And the Democrats says all they are is hard line. There is no compromise. It's either you agree with me or I will shut you down or I will shout you down. Cancellation, culture cancellation, is the work of the left. And so the 135th, if you get to be in there in November, you have already thought ahead, and these are certain issues that you want to make sure get at least recognized, get discussed on the House floor. What are your driving issues?
If you look at any of my campaign ledger, I have a few points. I am a huge supporter of all first responders, our police, our firefighters, EMTs, everybody, because that's the backbone of the community. I am going to put forth anything I can to try and offset the inflation here in Springfield from the state level down. And I'm a foster kid of 14 years, and I would like to see some movement and fixing the broken foster care system. We have over 13,000 foster kids in the state of Missouri, and almost 1,500 of them remain unadopted. And for me, family's everything. Finding families for these kids, because kids are the future. You'll hear that from both sides of the party, or both parties and everywhere. You know, the family unit may be different dynamic for a Democrat and a Republican, but at the end of the day, if we can find homes for these kids, we can get them a good start. We can save the future.
Well, let's get back to that after the break. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. Welcome back. You're listening to The Nick Reed Show. I'm attorney Kyle Wyatt of Wyatt Law & Associates filling in, and we have with us Michael Hasty, running for the 135th here. We were talking about things you want to get accomplished. You are a big proponent for the first responders. You talk about the foster care system. As a family law attorney, we deal a lot with foster care systems, especially if you're doing any kind of juvenile work. We have an abundance of children and a lack of foster parents, and then sometimes the system can't catch all the bad people, and you have some very bad foster parents that unfortunately we don't hear from until after things got really bad. What would be your thoughts on IP reform? It didn't get passed. This past year. Is that going to be something do you see as a priority, making sure it gets across the finish line this time?
For me, absolutely. I think that we need to protect the Constitution here in Missouri and not be able to just change it on a dime. And if IP reform is passed in the way that it needs to be passed, it'll make it a little bit harder to just, I guess you could say, erase the Constitution and pencil something else in its place.
Do you think it's important that we show that we are a U.S. citizen before we get the vote?
100%. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army, and I knew guys when I was in that were serving to get their citizenship in the country, and that is a constitutional right for citizens.
Right. Unfortunately, you saw from the left and Democrats who are just they think it's the worst thing in the world, to show an ID before you vote because it's very racist. Now, Mike, are you a racist? Or you think black people, but that's what the left goes for, right? They want to find
the low-hanging fruit.
Yes, I can't beat you in the arena of ideas, and so I'm just going to go to name calling.
Yeah, character assassinations.
Right.
I don't like the word saying I'm a victim of anything, but I've been a victim of that here. But if you look at, and as a lawyer and going through law school, how many things do you have to do in this country with an ID?
Oh, yeah.
To drive, to enter into a contract of any kind, I have to have an ID.
Fly on a plane?
Exercise any of my constitutional rights,
Buy liquor?
I was talking
Go
with
to
some
a gentleman's
friends.
club?
Kyle. Second Amendment, owning a firearm, it's a constitutional right. Got to use an ID to exercise that constitutional right. So what makes this one any different?
Yeah, it's really what they're trying to say is you're making it harder for us to cheat. You're making it harder for us to cheat because we have made it to where it's free. If you want to just get an ID, a non-driver's license ID, it's free. You can go and get it. Have the right documents to prove who you are, who you say you are. And it's crazy. I just applied to be a part of the Sons of the Revolution, SARs, and we just finally finished up the application this week. Having to show my father's long form death certificate, my mom's birth certificate, and then all of my genealogy to go back to show what relative I have fought in the Revolutionary War. And it's crazy, and it's something nice, but it's not something as fundamental and important as the sanctity of your vote. And I think we have to take IP reform very seriously on when it comes to the Constitution. I think we need to take it very seriously of knowing who's going to vote and make sure that they are who they say they are because elections are so important. They have so much consequence involved with them. Taxes. What is your philosophy? Right now, the Missouri gas tax is going to be going up yet again. Getting into the House, do you see a pathway or avenue of reversing the damage that Mike Keyhole and Mike Parsons committed on us?
I haven't really, to be honest, looked into that. I don't know what the path to doing that is, but I can tell you that I would never have voted in favor of the gas tax in the first place. I would have tried to end that because we're already taxed to death in this country as is. And if anything from this last session, they can't even come together. Democrats can't come together with the Republican majority to pass a budget before almost the last day of session, which shows me that they're not a very good steward of the tax dollars that they have already.
We had Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft on, and he said in the past 6-7 years, our state budget has over doubled.
I've heard that.
in size. And the question that he asked is, are you getting twice as much from your government as
That's
you
a
did
great
6 years
question.
ago? I think the answer is no. All right, guys, we got to take our one last break here. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. We had night 3 of the RNC Republican National Convention. Did you get to catch any of J.D. Vance's speech at all?
I did not. I was busy doing my own campaign stuff.
Faith it came up. He was an atheist for a long time, and
I can relate to that.
he looked into Catholicism and somehow became a Catholic. Sarah's grinning into here. She's a good little Catholic girl. You got confirmed.
Easter.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
That's nice. You have an interesting journey in your walk with God. If you want to take a moment to share a little bit of that with the listeners.
I had fallen out and I stopped believing. I deemed myself an agnostic person. And it goes back to April 16th, 2007, Baghdad, Iraq, but somewhere between 12 and 1 p.m., the time over there. My buddy died. That was the first casualty we experienced. And he was a faithful person. His family was a person, family of faith. They prayed for him. And I was just like, how? How is someone like me? I was a believer. I was raised Jehovah's Witness for many years. So I was raised.
So you're used to knocking doors.
Yeah. Whether it was willing or not at the time. But yeah, that's the day that the boy that went overseas to fight in this war that I was asked to by my country died, and the man that I am today was born. And I just had that falling out with God. I was like, why me? Why was I spared? I didn't go to church. I didn't put myself out there. I wasn't the best of person at the time. And I was just like, and seeing some of the other stuff that happened, the horrific things that these people were doing to each other on a daily basis. And, I had a friend who was killed over there as well, and he left behind 5 kids. I remember when my roommate died, he left behind a wife, and his wife was pregnant at the time. He never got to meet his daughter. And I thought, I was like, there can't be a God, or the God of the Bible can't exist, because why would this be allowed to happen? And again, why me? That was my big question, was always, why me? And then when I started having kids and I started seeing the miracles and the beauty in life, I started, going down the rabbit hole of finding myself in God again. And it was a long journey, and I've come back into having a faith in God again, because I've seen the world at its worst, but I've also seen the world at its best. And especially in the last 4 years, seeing what I perceive to be a legitimate fight of evil and some of the things that are being pushed through the political realm. I'm not going to dive too heavily into it, but if something that evil is happening in the world, there has to be good, and this all can't be just a chance.
Right.
There's just too much. If you look just at the beauty of nature, everything we need is here. The further we get into the more industrialized processed foods, and the further we get away from God, the sicker we get. And it was rough. When I ran for city council, I was still in the agnostic faith at the time. I was still having that struggle of, if God is real, why is so much bad happened in the world? So it hasn't been an easy journey for me. But I am proud to say that I am back, and I am a believer in God again.
Do you have a church home yet?
I do not. I've been doing some at-home Bible study stuff with people of different faiths, kind of coming together and everything, and kind of, scratching the surface on that.
They talk a lot about, and it's been the theme in the RNC convention of miracles, God's hand. And you watch the footage of the president getting shot, and just the simple act of him looking a direction that he not normally looks. They say he may move his body, but he rarely ever moves his neck to look at something. But they happen to have a big screen, and he was doing a kind of a Ross Perot type speech, talking about the numbers, that of illegal immigrants coming in and all this other stuff. And had he not turned his head that direction, that bullet would have went through his head and not just, graze his ear. And so God's hand was at work. It wasn't just by happen chance. And I think, you look around at the world around you, nature, the beauty that we have, and that the earth is in the right spot, the perfect spot, and it couldn't be anywhere else, and all the other factors that make life so habitable on this earth, and all the varieties of life that we have here.
Absolutely.
To think that it just came from magic water hitting magic rock somehow created life is just foolhardy, and it's not intellectually honest. And that's what I think is, politics has its roles, religion, faith has its role, but I don't think you put your faith on a shelf when you're in office. I think the faith is your guiding star. Your that helps you make the right decisions, and I think it'll serve you well in the House. People, I really implore you that. To get out and vote. The great thing for you, Mike, the great thing for you is that your campaign is falling on a presidential election year, and people are going to go out and vote, and the people are excited to vote for President Donald J. Trump, and they're going to see that R next to your name. And I have a prediction. I think you're going to be the next representative of the 135th, and you're going to serve your people really well.
Well, I'm not going to bank on the down ballot. I'm going to go out and I'm going to outwork my opponent, and I'm going to earn every vote I get, but I'm hoping for the same outcome.
I think you will. And enjoy the heat and the sweat out there.
It's worth it.
Darren Chaplin said he lost probably about 20 pounds from campaigning, so watch out.
I put on the miles, I'll tell you. Hey, I could lose a few pounds.
All right. Appreciate you coming in, Mike. Guys, we'll be right back after this message. Good morning. It is July 18th, 2024. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. I'm attorney Kyle Wyatt of Wyatt Law and Associates, located here in Springfield, Missouri, filling in for Nick Reed. We have with us Shane Schuler. He's a candidate for the statewide office of Missouri Secretary of State. We'll begin our conversation with Shane right after our news and weather.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we have sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 59. Friday, once again, a beautiful day, sunny with a high near 80. And on Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 82.
Thank you, Miss Sarah.
You're welcome.
We are joined in studio with Shane Schuler. He is the Greene County clerk.
That's right.
County clerk for what, the past 10 years?
10 years now.
That's about a decade. It's hard to believe.
I know, it really is.
And you have been responsible in keeping the integrity of our votes here in the county safe for the past decade. You went through the tumultuous 2020 election and all
Yes.
you were a popular guy. You were on the radio and the news a lot, asking questions, especially afterwards on the integrity of vote. And you have decided to throw your hat in the ring and run for Secretary of State on a Republican ticket.
Yes.
That election again is August 6th, so we're just on the home stretch. 2 weeks.
3 weeks out.
Yeah, less than 3 weeks away. Tell those who, everybody knows you here in Greene County, but a quick recap.
You bet. Well, like I said, I've been serving as the county clerk for the past 10 years. Prior to that, I was in the Missouri General Assembly for 3 terms, served in North Springfield, North Greene County as legislator there. My last term, I was honored to be the Speaker Pro Tem with my colleagues there in the Missouri House, and believe that when you're in public service, it's about serving the people that entrusted you with their vote. As a matter of fact, my campaign theme when I first ran was working to serve you. And I think that's critical in public service. I think that we need to get back to that. Really, the best decisions happen right here in Greene County. They happen within our communities. And so I understand that. I think I have learned that as a county clerk in terms of the importance of your local governance. And so as Secretary of State, I'm going to keep that in mind if the voters entrust me with their vote to be their next Secretary of State.
Doing I couldn't even fathom, Shane, doing a statewide campaign. I mean, it's one thing to run here. The county, Greene County, is pretty sizable county in the state of Missouri. You run for county clerk, running for Secretary of State, the entire state of Missouri. How many miles have you put on your vehicle?
Well, I'm on my second vehicle, but the the one prior we'd had since 2013, I believe, and so it had quite a few miles on it already, and the transmission finally decided that it wasn't going to continue, let me keep it on the highway, and so the current vehicle I have just went over 50,000. We got the vehicle at 3,000. I'd probably put a good 15 to 20,000 on the previous vehicle before that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I love our state. It is so diverse in terms of geography. We think about southeast Missouri and agriculture down there and just the culture. And then you think about the differences between Kansas City, St. Louis, and the North Missouri, the farmland. And then here in the Ozarks, as a kid who grew up in Branson, I just love the beauty of the Ozarks. I love who we are, and just really, I think we really give something to our state that is really special. And it's not just for our state, but the nation recognizes the beauty of the Ozarks and just how we live here in this great part of the state.
We're going to take a break here in a minute, and when we come back, talk about we're going to talk about this hour. What has helped prepare you
Yes.
to be Secretary of State? It's an important job.
It is.
A lot of times, as the Secretary of State, when we get these close elections that you see on Fox News and CNN, we're here for the Secretary of State because of the importance of the ballot of our votes. And so how being a county clerk has prepared you for that, and what do you think you can offer the state of Missouri that your other opponents probably can't when we come back? So you are listening to the Nick Reed Show. Welcome back. You are listening to the Nick Reed Show. I'm attorney Kyle Wyatt, filling in for Mr. Reed. We got Shane Schuler with us. Looking up you here online, you were born in Salina, Kansas.
Yes.
52 years of age. What'd you think last night? You see this 39-year-old who's gonna. I told her, "God, what have I done with my life? I turned 49 here in a couple weeks." And I am a stupid lawyer with a microphone in front of my face on the weeks. And I don't know if you caught his speech last night,
I
J.D.
did.
Vance.
Yes.
I think the future of the party looks pretty good.
It does.
It seems like we got a pretty deep bench.
Absolutely, and I think that's part of what we need to be thinking about as we think about our party and going forward, and that is looking at bright talents like him, and of course Senator Schmidt spoke the night before. Of course, we have Senator Hawley. We've got some bright young talent, and some right here in our very own state too.
President Trump will be visiting here our nice little town here in September, I saw.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, September 23rd, something like that. I know something you don't. How about that, sir? Yeah, you heard it here first. And I got to see him last time, 2018. He came to Springfield to help campaign for Josh Hawley, and he's coming back again to help Josh Hawley run for re-election. I have been asking all our guests this morning, where were you, and what was your first thoughts hearing of the assassination attempt of our president?
I was actually over in Lawrence County. They were having a Republican picnic, and someone, actually Jay Ashcroft, said, "We need to stop and pray." And I was like, "What's going on here?" Because we'd literally just walked in, didn't have on the radio as we were traveling over, because my family came with me. And anyway, and then very quickly began to process what happened. And so, just one of those moments that, just like when the Space Challenger, crashed. You remember those moments when Ronald Reagan I remember that. I was in third grade, in the classroom down there in Branson, and another teacher came running in, Ms. Crawford, and said they've tried to assassinate the president. So you remember those moments. You never forget them.
Yeah, and to think that we were 1 inch away, if that, of something that, we've been, Tucker Carlson's been talking about it. I mean, it's no secret.
Well, And
The left can't win on the principles of their case. This is the only other way they could try.
and I've thought about this, just as a Christian, this is a moment that I think we should all wake up and really understand that had that moment went differently, this could have been a very different country today.
Oh yeah.
And God allowed President Trump to continue forward, and that assassination attempt failed. But I don't want to miss that moment. And one of the things that you hear about our country is that we are great. But we're not great because of Washington, and we're not great because of Jefferson City. We're great because of what happens here in our communities, and that greatness starts in our churches and that faith that we have in God. And of course, as a Christian, I'm not ashamed of that. And I think we need to remember that and return to that. And that is what is going to return America to greatness. It's not the economy. It's definitely not Hollywood. It's what happens in our churches.
And that's great to hear. It really is. We're going to have Attorney General John Ashcroft on our show Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit at the end about faith, because he's a man of faith. He's unabashed.
Absolutely.
Christian, and his son Jay. I got to know him in the last few months, and you can tell also that it's not just the talk. Anyone can talk.
Yes.
It's those who actually walk the walk.
That's right.
And that's what I appreciate about Jay, Darren Chapel. There's a lot of men of faith that are serving in higher offices, and thank God they do.
That's right.
Because we see what the alternative is like. We see, Secretary of State Ashcroft doing something that I don't think any Secretary of State or any politician should have to do. Tell libraries, don't put smut on our bookshelves that children can get their hands on.
Absolutely. No, to me, that's just another common sense thing. And when we talk about that, I'm like, most of your local property tax dollars fund your library. There's some connection between the Secretary of State's office in terms of the funding they send back, and I'm certainly committed to making sure that there's no funding for any agenda like that. And I want to make that very clear. But I tell people, get on your local library board. Go to your county commission. Go to your city council members and your mayor and say, I want to be appointed to that board, and start attending those meetings and saying, this is our community. We want our libraries to be about literacy and reading. That should be what they should be prioritizing.
Why is it so hard?
Well, I think unfortunately some people have begun to see institutions like that as an opportunity to try to, impose ideas and thoughts on people that people aren't thinking about. And that's not the purpose. The purpose is to provide literature, to provide reading, and we want people to, we want high literacy rates. We understand what that does in terms of your community, in terms of education. But not to people, I'm a Christian. I don't want them taking those dollars and imposing any, as a Christian, I can go tell people about my faith, but I don't want public government doing it. Right. I said that last year during Pride Fest, that we don't need any public dollars going to that. As a Christian, I don't want any public dollars going to promote my faith as a Christian. That is my responsibility. And so we need to get back to respecting those boundaries, understanding that you may not agree with me. That's okay. I'm not asking you to agree with me, but let's not use public dollars or public places to do that. Let's have those conversations and those opportunities take place elsewhere, but not in public spaces with our public taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, and it's not just our public libraries. We see it in our public schools.
Yes, exactly.
And too many times we watch these videos of parents who come to these school board meetings, and they're told to get off the stage, get off the mic, because you're reading things that are not appropriate for a public setting. But yet our children get to read it and then look at it at their leisure. So if it's not available, not appropriate to put on our airwaves, and it's not.
That's right.
I think Sarah would probably beat me out if I read some of these books. It's definitely not appropriate for our young minds and children. Well, Shane, we got to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about what has prepared you for this office and discuss how that will translate over to being a Secretary of State. Thanks. Guys, you are listening to The Nick Reed Show. We have Shane Schuler, Greene County clerk. Not to be confused with circuit clerk. I'm as an attorney, I deal with circuit clerk. We have a Greene County circuit clerk.
That's right.
But Greene County clerk, what's the responsibility of the Greene County clerk, and how does that kind of translate to the similarities with Secretary of State?
Yeah, it's very administrative in nature, so that's why we administer the elections. We oversee voter registration. We oversee tax administration between the assessor's office and the collector. For example, this week, anyone who's appealing their property value that they disagree with the assessor with, or the secretary of the Board of Equalization. Then after we get those values in your personal real property, we send that out. All the political subdivisions, including Greene County, tax levies are set. Then we take all those values, those levies, we send them to the collector for then the collector to send us our tax bill at the end of the year. We also oversee licensing. So I joke I'm a teetotaling Baptist with my name on every liquor establishment in Greene County, and so we do that, auctioneer license, payroll for the county. We also oversee retirement benefits and then record retention archives. And so just a number of diverse duties, and the Secretary of State's very similar. Oversees elections, voter registration, record retention, oversees the notary commission process, and again, that ends in the county clerk's office when they come to get their license. They get sworn in there. And then they also oversee business services, so anyone who wants to start their business goes to the Secretary of State's office to be able to do that. Investment protection, so every time you go to invest your dollars, if someone's trying to defraud you, they have the securities division, so they oversee that. They also have the state library, Wolfner Library for the Blind, and so just a number of duties that are housed underneath the Secretary of State's office.
What has been some of the changes that you have brought to Greene County as the county clerk?
Well, I think one of the things that we've done is making sure, for example, voting is critically important. And when I first came as county clerk, you had to come into the courthouse, which is not an easy place to get into, the historic courthouse. And so we had an election center. So, for example, I changed our absentee voting to the election center. Makes it a lot better for those people who can't walk up all the steps to be able to get in and be able to cast their vote there. Also have made sure that in terms of sunshine, we have really changed that process in terms of when somebody has a sunshine law request. We've really modernized that in our office to make sure that we're responsive and ready. Even put on a sunshine law school back in 2017, not just for our county, but for any political subdivision. Even the Highway Patrol came to that because it's important that we know how to respond to sunshine law requests. And I was actually recognized in 2022 as a Sunshine Hero through this Missouri Sunshine Coalition, which essentially works with the Missouri Press Association. So I've been recognized for that work in terms of saying, this is your government. If you need information, we're always going to work to make sure we provide that for you. So that's critical as well. And so just a number of things like that, making sure that your government is accessible to you. I think that's critically important. That's why we're here. As I said, I ran with the theme of working to serve you. As a kid, grew up in Branson, you really learn that. Between bussing tables and selling shoes at Reese Shoe and Boot, you understand, that we're here to serve. And so that's part of what I want to do, Secretary of State, and that's what I've been doing as county clerk.
What has, that's governor, we think of, one of those elections. Hey, that's they kind of really define, and honestly, every position that the state level has, whether you're treasurer or attorney general, they're defined roles for sure. But what attracted you to run for Secretary of State?
Well, I've always had a passion for elections going back really, as a kid, I was excited to get the opportunity to be able to vote my first time. But I never forget election night 2000. That's when it really became, I think, something that kind of grabbed a part of who I am in terms of my passion. And everyone thinks about what happened down in Florida in terms of the hanging chads. But right here in our state that very night, the polls were left open until 10 o'clock in the city of St. Louis. And if you go back and look at the history of that election, voters continued to vote for an additional 3 hours. Everyone else across the state had to stop voting at 7 o'clock, which is what should have happened in the city of St. Louis. And I tell people, Jim Talent, who was running for governor that night, lost by 20,000 votes. John Ashcroft, who was running for a second term in the U.S. Senate, lost by about 50,000 votes. And so you understand the importance of fairness. And that's one of the things I believe is you have to understand your role in a job. One of the things I've really worked hard on as county clerk is Yes, I'm conservative. I believe in limited government. I am pro-life, unashamedly. I want to make sure we protect everyone's Second Amendment rights. All those things are critical, but you also have to understand you have to be fair. And so I work with people, that are Democrats. I'm going to let them know I'm going to treat you fairly. And so, for example, when we had in the 135th race back in 2020, there was less than 0.5% difference between the top two candidates for that race. I called both candidates. I called both party chairs. We opened it up to the public. The public was able to come and observe the hand count that we did before we certified that election. I think that's what leadership is about, is making sure it's everyone's government. I'm not going to let my views limit you in terms of your participation. I think that's critical, and that's what I do as county clerk, and I want to continue to do that as Secretary of State.
Well, we're at the bottom of the hour here. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Shane Schuler.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmitz, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we're going to have sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 59. On Friday, sunny with a high near 80. And on Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 82. The Pyramid Roofing Company, we had quite a few storms roll through the Ozarks over the last 48 hours, and if you are having any type of roof issues, I highly recommend the Pyramid Roofing Company. Door knockers are going to be out and about, and oftentimes they don't have your best interest in mind. They typically make you sign a contingency agreement right out of the gate, and then they are nearly impossible to get out of as soon as you sign those. The Pyramid team, whenever they come out, they do not make you sign anything. They do a free roof inspection for you, and then when it's time to work through that insurance process, they also don't make you sign anything because they genuinely want to help you through that process. They get it. They get that it's stressful, can be kind of confusing, and they want to make sure that they get y'all taken care of. So if it is time to have the Pyramid team come out to your home, go ahead and give Josh and his team a call today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com. Did you see our decals that we have?
Pretty nice.
Springfield Wraps, they created, I guess you can call them window clings or decals, but they created us 2 different designs. They have just the American flag. If you're watching on our YouTube live, I've got a couple here, but we have just the American flag one, and then we have just the iconic Trump raising his fist after his attempted assassination on Saturday, and it's got a American flag in the background as well. If you want to snag one of these, you can do so. All you have to do is run by the KSGF studio. 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. is when we are going to be open and giving these out. Like I said, we got the 2 designs. We do have a limit on those. I believe it is 2 per person on the Trump ones, and then the American flag ones, I think it is 4 per person. So once again, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. if you want to grab one of those at the KSGF studio. You can find more details about it at ksgf.com.
He is the original OG. He is seriously. When I watched the video, you hear the hot mic, right? He's like, "Let me get my shoe on. Let me get my shoe on first, right?" Worry about. And then the way he stood up and then just fists in the air and just they say his son called him has the heart of a lion. You knew the election's over at that point.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, there's no way. It doesn't matter if it's Biden, Kamala, Gavin, whoever they throw out there. They have no shot. There's absolutely no shot. November, if we can keep them alive, sad to say in our world, we just keep our candidate alive. Then I think good things are going to happen. I had talked with you before. I don't know if you caught. We had Michael Acey on last hour.
Yes.
And one of the frustrating things for many of those who are getting involved in politics, I said COVID did one great thing, is it woken up a whole sector of our society that was content of just kind of going to work,
right,
being with the family, going to church. Government does this thing, I'm going to go do my thing. But then government intruded in our lives. Government told us we couldn't go to church. Government told us who was essential and who was not essential. Government did a lot of things negative to us. And then we learned what happened in our schools and what type of things our children were learning. And it was eye-opening. And so many parents who had no desire to ever get involved in politics started running for politics. And you started seeing it starting with the school boards, and school boards, being more, hey, we're not doing this DEI. We're not doing critical race theory. We're not doing this stuff anymore. You're supposed to be teaching like Steve McCoskey says, our ABCs and 1, 2, 3s.
Right.
That's what it needs to be. That's all it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so the frustrating thing, and I had a conversation with you in the past, is how can we make it better? Because right now our biggest problem is turnout. Republicans, conservatives, for whatever reason, just don't show up on April. Just don't. I mean, they just refuse to show up. They're working, they're doing other things, and it's just not on their radar. Michael was saying that some people will be like, they see these signs everywhere, right? City council and school board and local taxes, and we're going to raise our taxes here locally or whatever else. And they just forget and they don't show up because it's not front of mind. As opposed to, even like August 6th, there's going to be probably a lot farther or a lot larger turnout than there was in April. I bet. I've seen it. And so the question is, why not move our local elections? Because we know the saying, and it is true, all politics are local, right? Mm-hmm. Jefferson City can do things to us. D.C. can even do things to us. But in reality, it's our local city governments, our local county governments, our local school boards that have the more direct impact on our lives. And we need to have people involved and make help make decisions. We're a city of over 100 churches, 100 congregations, and I guarantee you, I just bet, if I was a betting man, that most of them would be absolutely aghast and opposed to having drag queens reading to our little children. They'd be aghast and opposed to pornography in our schools and classrooms. They'd be aghast and opposed to having teachers having gay pride flags and having students pledge allegiance to it. And yet we just stay home and allow them to bring in whatever candidates they want who are all for those things. And so what would be the opposition of at least moving the April elections to at least August?
There's certainly the thought of you move it into either August or November in an even numbered year, that you would have more participation. And I definitely think that in terms of the ballot, it would be hard to argue that in terms of more voters voting and voting all the way through the ballot. Now, we know a lot of voters don't vote all the way through the ballot in the bigger elections. I see that every time we go through and look at the numbers who voted for president, governor, and on down the ticket.
So you're telling me when you're looking at the voting
The
statistics,
totals. Mm-hmm.
that same ballot
Mm-hmm.
person will go and they'll vote for 2 or 3 candidates and then leave the other things blank?
Absolutely, yes. Which you want an informed voter, right?
Well, I
And
guess.
so there is some credence to saying we don't want them voting if they don't know who the
Sure.
candidates are. However, I think, and of course, it always goes back to me. You know, when you think about our men and women who protect this country, those who have given their life for this privilege that we have, I don't know why you don't show up in April, because it's critical. And so one of the things as election officials that we get concerned about is, and it's called ballot types. Every time you add in a new, office in terms of the lines that are drawn for that office, whether it's city council, school board, et cetera, you create more ballot types. And so one of the challenges, if it is moved into August or November, and frankly, November at that point would probably be better, because in August you have your Republican, Democratic, Libertarian ballots, and so that creates some layers of complication. Of course, we have an independent ballot too. But at the end of the day, one of the things that gets tough is when you're in a close election, if the people who are serving as election judges did not pay attention, and it happens on occasion, they're humans, it's not intentional, they hand out wrong ballots. That's one of the reasons why here in Greene County, you asked about improvements, we now have a little barcode at the bottom. It does not identify you as a voter. That barcode just says BT23, which means ballot type 23, BT22. We scan that in to make sure we're giving you the correct ballot as a voter, so we don't inadvertently hand out wrong ballots. But some counties don't have that technology right now. So we've got to think through very thoughtfully. And I'm still not ready to give up on the idea that, our friends who are conservatives start showing up. I mean, I don't know why an April election is any, and as I told you earlier, it's actually more important, frankly, than August and November of this year. Because if you see what's happening in your communities, it usually started in your schools, usually started in your city councils. And that's where we've got to begin to restore our beliefs and start having those conversations. And we don't have to be ugly about it. Just say, you know what, we disagree. This is the direction our community is going to go. And if you've got the votes, you can do that. But if you don't, you can see that suddenly things begin to slip away, and agendas you don't agree with suddenly become more of the norm. And that's what, voting is about. And so I think that we can have that conversation about November in terms of that. But I would hope that if we move to November, it would, meet the purpose of what you're talking about in terms of having more voters vote for the candidates in those particular elections. But it will be harder as a candidate to get your message out there too, because you've got so many. You got the president, you got the president's year, you got the governor, you got sometimes Senate, got all the statewide state. Then you got can be a very full ballot. It can be hard to get your message out there while you're running.
It's harder is when you see those rural counties or like Dade County and they're voting on a tax bill and it'd be like 8-3. And it's like, I know that it's a small county, but they got a little bit more people than that, and it's just turnout.
Absolutely.
Hey, we got to take a break here. You are listening to the Nick Reed Show. All right, we're down the home stretch. You're listening to the Nick Reed Show. I'm Attorney Kyle Wyatt. Filling in, we got Shane Schuler, Greene County Clerk, who is running for Secretary of State. IP reform, it was supposed to pass, failed. There's no leadership in Jefferson City to guide those cats into the right direction. And so, as Secretary of State, one of your jobs is going to be the wording of constitutional amendments. But what's your feel? What's your belief needs to be done for IP?
Well, I've always been a firm believer that your Constitution should be limited. That if you're going to have, laws that can be changed, it needs to happen in your statutes. Your Constitution should be limited. Of course, our state Constitution is pretty robust in terms of the size of it. The one thing I think about IP reform is the only thing I caution about is I was someone who voted against the stem cell amendment, for example. Also a guy who didn't believe in legalizing marijuana. That's just me personally. If you ever want to change those and go back and repeal them, how do we do that if we increase the percentage? Right. So is there something if it was already in the Constitution passed by, IP reform, you keep that original percentage in there, but everything new have a higher percentage? I don't even know if that's possible, but I do think we need to be thoughtful about those things because those are things that are important to me, and I don't want to make it harder to be able to change that if there ever is an opportunity to be able to do that. So I do think about that just from, probably being a little bit too nerdy in politics, but you think about those things.
About IP reform. We've had different office holders on our show, our Saturday morning shows, talking about really the conversation about IP reform has been, all right, how do we do we do by congressional district, do we do by state senatorial districts, House districts, what's the best way, how much majority of each congressional district or whatever. But that's a really good point. If there was something like bingo that's put into our Missouri State Constitution, now we have a different way of passing the constitutional amendment. Is that just? Is that fair? I don't know. But regardless, all these new things that are coming about. The two big things. One, you had came to speak to, I think, the pachyderms, talking about, hey guys, keep this on your radar. Ranked choice voting is being really pushed by the left because if they can't win by our rules, let's just change the rules, right?
Right.
And that could very well be on the constitutional or on the ballot to vote on, and they make it sound sweet, don't they?
In November, there will be a constitutional amendment that would not allow that in our state. And so I certainly, County Clerk Association has put out a resolution against ranked choice voting. I personally, the first time I've heard about it was against that. So voters will have that opportunity in November to be able to do that. And of course, part of that is also ensuring that you making it clear you must be a citizen of this nation to be able to vote in the election. And so the purpose of that is making sure local elections don't suddenly become compromised by people who are not citizens, which we've seen in other parts of the country where they're allowing non-citizens. They may be here legally, but they're still voting in local elections. And that's the amendment of the Constitution will make it clear that you have to be a citizen regardless if it's a local, state, or federal election.
So there is going to be something on the ballot this November.
Yes.
Now, is it the vote that they could vote for it, or this is just purely against it that Missouri will not be? So even if it fails,
that's right.
It's not going to be.
So if it fails, it's still not. It's not the law, but it would just clarify in the Constitution that it is not allowed in our state. Yes.
And then the other provision about being a United States citizen. I don't know why that is just so damning from the left's point of view. They're against it. They hate it,
right.
And they think it's what bigotry, a racist, something.
The justification I usually hear is they pay taxes. They're part of the citizenry in terms of their participation. They should have a say in what's happening. And
how'd they get here?
And this is where I disagree. I'm like, I believe our citizenship has value and it means something. And if you take away the idea that you can be a non-citizen vote, I'm trying to figure out where our citizenship really matters. And I'm not trying to be funny about
right.
that. I know the left disagrees, but they need to respect where we're coming at from this position, that we have a deep love and appreciation for our freedom, for what has been given, what has been sacrificed by those who have defended us and our nation's armed services. And so we do respect and we want to honor that. And that's why we want to make sure that's clear that in any local election, you have to be a citizen, that no local government gets to say, well, we're going to allow non-citizens to vote. And that's what we've seen in other parts of the country. And even in San Francisco, they have a non-citizen serving on the Board of Election Commissioners. And I just fundamentally disagree with that.
You know, when your first act to come to our country is breaking the law, you know, I have a problem. We have a young woman who works here at the station who came here the right way. We call Katie from Russia. She became a citizen last year, I think it was, and the excitement, how much work she had to take a test and pay money, and you know, it was a huge accomplishment.
Right.
And now, you know, the left, the Democrats, they just want to hand them out.
Yeah.
And she gets to vote for the very first time. She's
That's
very,
awesome.
very excited too.
I do too.
I might go shake her hand or see if she'll vote.
That's right. Exactly.
All right, we got to take our last break of the hour. You are listening to The Nick Reed Show. All right, this is our last segment. It goes by fast this morning. Doesn't matter how early I had to get up to do it. It's been great being with each and every one of you. We have, again, County Clerk for Greene County, Shane Scholler. Shane Scholler, who's running for Secretary of State. Last few minutes, what's been your campaign pitch to the people around the state?
Well, again, I'm ready day one to be your Secretary of State. I won't have to take time to learn the office because I understand, especially from elections, voter registration, record retention archives, licensing, for example, understand that well. Number two, there's things I understand that are now becoming a part of discussion in terms of elections. For example, one of the candidates that I'm running against filed this in the legislature, but he had, acknowledges that they filed it because I brought it up, and that is when we receive absentee ballots back in the mail, it's not a requirement in the law that we check the signature. Now, it's a best practice. You talk to any election authority, county clerk across our state, they do that. But my point is, if someone's choosing not to do it, if you have one who is trying to throw the outcome of an election and purposely ignoring that, there's nothing in the law you can do to hold them accountable. We need to get that done in terms of election integrity purposes. I think that's critical. The other thing I talk about is that we have a real challenge in inner cities and denser populated areas in terms of finding enough Republicans to be election judges and be there, in terms of the integrity of the election, the day of the election. In rural Missouri, we have a hard time finding Democrats that can serve there. And so one of the things I did in the election integrity bill was I worked with the legislature to make sure that we were able to, in a bipartisan fashion, make it easier to be able to get people from one county to another county. Because up until 2022, I, as an election official, had to get permission for a Greene County voter to go to another county to serve. We got that barrier removed. And I mention that because what I would like to do, like, for example, as Secretary of State, is call our state party chairs and say, where do we not have enough Republicans? Where do we not have enough Democrats? And work with the county chairs to be able to begin making up those deficits in those areas. And that's where you have election integrity, because, we never trust the machines. We always do test the machines. We do hand count audits. But there's other ways that elections can be taken. And that's why we need to make sure that in terms of checks and balances, we have real Republicans, real Democrats serving together to protect that integrity. And right now, that's not happening. That's something I brought forth that I think is critically important in terms of the conduct of elections. And those are insights I have, having been doing this for the past 10 years, that can really, take us to the next level in terms of the integrity of elections. And we do really well in our state, but as I always say, we can always do better.
One of the candidates for governor, Bill Eigel, stated that if he was elected, he wants to do away with all machine counting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see a problem with having machines counting along with hand counts, or it should be just all hand count? What's your view on that?
Well, you never trust machines, and I've said that from day one. I don't trust them because, for example, it may not even be, intentional, but they can be programmed in error. So you've always got to make sure that they're counting the vote correctly. But we need to remember our history as a state. If you go back and look at the history of why we went to, machines to tabulate votes, it was because hand counting was not only susceptible to fraud, it was fraudulent in many elections during that period of time. For example, the St. Louis Globe Democrat 1955 article they had back in April that year said, St. Louis Board of Election Commissioners, we are changing to the machines because we're tired of the ballot box stuffing. We're tired of the voted ballots being changed. They were tired of the person calling the ballot for the person they preferred versus who the person voted for on the ballot. And they were tired of the person checking the tally, checking it for the person they preferred. And so if hand counting was completely foolproof to fraud, I would be having that conversation of how we can make that transition. But both of them are so susceptible to fraud. And that's why I think it's important that you have, a machine that you can not only test, but do rigorous hand count audits, having bipartisan teams. And I tell people, I may not be able to have a bipartisan team in every election jurisdiction across the state, but we have high confidence we can have bipartisan teams doing those hand count audits. And again, they're random. Those precincts are randomly drawn. The races that are hand counted are randomly drawn as well. And so that's where we can have integrity. And so that's why I think we need to have both.
Well, Shane, I hope you have the best of luck. Less than 3 weeks, get out there. Sure, you're going to be shaking a lot of hands, but if the people want to get a hold of you, where do they go?
They can go to ShaneForSOS.com. They can also go to Shane Scheller on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and find me there.
All right. Well, best of luck.
All right. Thanks,
guys, I hope you have a fantastic Thursday. Who's coming in tomorrow? Darren Chappell. Oh, I have a man crush. Anyway, guys, have a great day.